Joe Biden's beginning to fill out his administration. He tapped Louisiana Congressman Cedric Richmond for a senior advisory role. He's appointed longtime advisor Ron Klain to be his chief of staff. And this is as progressives are beginning to look at and want their turn.
Host of the Kyle Kulinski Show, Kyle Kulinski is here to discuss how he thinks the Biden administration is likely to unfold. Great to see you, Kyle.
Good to see you, Kyle.
Good to see you guys, too. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So what are your top-line thoughts and expectations and hopes, perhaps, for the incoming Biden administration?
Yeah, so I've said this a few times now. I think that the most productive time in his administration and in his term will be the first day or the first week, because I think that he'll immediately start signing some executive orders that actually will please people like me. But, you know, it's kind of like weak praise, because all he's going to do is get us back to, like, you know, put the clock back 4 years, and it's all like rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement, reinstating DACA, reversing Trump's rollback of about 100 health and environmental regulations. I think he'll use executive orders to increase, or use the Defense Production Act to increase PPE and increase testing for COVID. So it's going to be things that, you know, I'll give him credit for, but it's really just sort of basic Democratic priorities. And beyond that, after the first day or the first week, I really think we're in for some gridlock. I mean, I think it's going to be, obviously a lot hinges on what happens in the Georgia races, but really no matter what happens in the Georgia races, because I don't think they're going to use budget reconciliation. Even if they win the Senate, I don't think they'll use budget reconciliation that much. So I think you're going to have a lot of gridlock. And to the extent anything gets done, it's going to be the kind of stuff that corporate Democrats agree with Republicans on. So namely, something like a grand bargain, for example, where they'll cut Medicare and Social Security, and then they'll portray it as, no, we have to do this. We're saving the programs, we're not cutting the programs. And yeah, so I think that that's likely what's going to happen. And the thing that's been driving me crazy recently, that the tricks that the corporate Democrats are using are working. So, for example, Ronald Klain being picked as the chief of staff, they give us all bad options and then pick the least bad among the bad options. And then you have progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez celebrating that. And it's like, no, you actually should have demanded that there were even better options than the ones that were on the table, because this guy's actually not that great. He's a career Democratic insider.
Well, so this is the interesting thing that I generally see, Kyle. At the same time, you know, it's not like they have a lot of power in terms of the number of votes in the Senate and in terms of the number of votes in the House. What would be the best way for you and your wing in order to get what you want from Joe Biden, since he doesn't necessarily need or care all that much? That's
a great question. Yeah. And the answer is act exactly like the Tea Party acted, because I would argue that the Tea Party was successful in what they were doing.
Of course.
When the Tea Party came in, they were like, hey, listen, we hate John Boehner just as much as we hate Barack Obama. And we're beheading people and holding it up and showing it to everybody. Whereas what you see on the Democratic side and what you see among the squad, and I love them and I think they mean well, let me just be clear about that, but what they do is they're more than willing to, once they've gotten within the system, now everything they talk about is like, hey, why can't we unify? Hey, why can't you guys stop slamming us? Hey, how come, you know, you're not giving us the respect that we give you? When really what I wanted them to do all along, and I'll include Bernie in this, I wanted them to go after Nancy Pelosi as aggressively as they go after Donald Trump, and to use the only tool that you have, which is your giant followings. And so if Nancy Pelosi does some sort of Machiavellian backroom deal where she stabs you in the back and, you know, withholds a committee seat from you because you criticized her, then you call that out too, and you use the power of the people, and you do exactly what the Tea Party did, and you have to vote as a unified bloc, and you have to call out your own party as much as the Republicans. We can't even get a vote on Medicare for all in a Democratic House. And I think that says it all, because if you're not going to call out Pelosi for not allowing that vote, then, you know, what are we doing here? It's all kabuki theater. And at the end of the day, you're really going along to get along.
Yeah. Well, and actually criticizing the Democratic Party is incredibly popular. I mean, if you're actually, just from a political strategic standpoint, if you're willing to do that and call out your own team, people actually really love it. I wanted to get, though, your take, Kyle, on the speech that Joe Biden gave yesterday and some of the economic priorities that he laid out. We have a little bit of that speech. Let's take a listen.
It's based on a simple premise. It's time to reward work, not just wealth in America. We're going to have a fair tax structure that makes sure the wealthiest among us and corporations pay their fair share. Our plan will create millions of good-paying union jobs in manufacturing, building the vehicles, products, technologies that we're going to need for the future to compete with the rest of the world. From autos to our stockpiles, we're going to buy American. No government contract will be given to companies that don't make their products here in America. To secure our position as a global leader in research and development, we're going to invest $300 billion in the most critical, competitive new industries and technologies, creating 3 million good-paying jobs.
So, Kyle, a few of the things that he mentioned there, he's talking about the Buy American order, which would be significant, something Trump talked about but never actually really executed on. $15 minimum wage. He talked up unions. He talked about an infrastructure project, pushing forward with a $3 trillion stimulus. Notably absent from that list was anything to do with health care. What did you make overall of the priorities that he sketched out?
So the stuff he said was not bad. In fact, I support a lot of the stuff that he said there. The issue is what has a chance of getting done and what is there just no chance of getting done. I would argue the $15 minimum wage thing is going to be very difficult because, yes, Democrats have the House. Yes, they passed $15 minimum wage through the House. But unless the Democrats get the Senate, I don't think it's, you're going to knock off any Republicans on that. So $15 minimum wage, I don't have high hopes for. On the Buy American thing, see, this is one of those issues where he could absolutely prove his skeptics like me wrong. Like, just, okay, sign that Buy America executive order. He could do this just through executive order. He doesn't need the Senate. He doesn't need the House. So if Joe Biden were to sign that executive order, I would give him a lot of praise. Because remember, with Trump did the same thing. Like you said, he was arguing, we're going to do this executive order. And then he did a symbolic Buy America week. And it's like, no, that's not what we wanted. We wanted exactly what Joe said there, which is like, you don't get government contracts, federal government contracts, if the products are not made in America. So some of those things he could do through executive order, and I'll support it, and he could prove me wrong and be better than I would have expected if he did it. Others are kind of like wishful thinking a little bit. And then others, like you said, Crystal, he doesn't even really touch on, or he kind of dodges on. Like there was another part in that speech talking about student loan debt elimination where he was like, I love how the number keeps dropping. At one point it was like 50,000. Now it's down to like 10,000. And it's also, he like voiced tepid support for the House bill. Meanwhile, he actually can eliminate it through executive order. And it seems like he's not going to do that. And so he's trying to pawn off to like the House, like, I support the House bill where they eliminate like up to $10,000. So it's a mixed bag. And all I have to say is I really hope that all of my skepticism is dead wrong. I want Joe Biden to prove me wrong and to be the most progressive president since FDR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we'll keep holding our breath for that one, Kyle. Appreciate you joining us.
Good to see you, Kyle. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, boss. All right, as President Trump proposes troop withdrawals from Afghanistan, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says that's not a good idea. We're going to discuss that when Rising continues.